Well, thank you for joining me today on the Agent Excel podcast. And today we have my good friend, Nolan Rucker. What's up, Nolan?
What's up, bro? How are you?
I'm good, dude. Well, I brought you in here because I always say that you get to come on a show because you usually either have like a certain skill or you've got receipts, and those are what get you to a podcast. Then people want to hear for 45 minutes how you got there. So over the last probably 2 months, you've dropped some really cool receipts. We'll probably get into some of them later in the show, but out the gate, I think it's just like your volume.
Yeah.
What you pulled off last year volume wise as a solo agent. You posted something on your Instagram probably a month ago. I had people hitting me up and they were just like, how does he do that? I actually had a text 2 days ago from somebody that said, how's Nolan pull all this off just as a solo agent? And so that's almost the point of the show is I would like for people now to hear that story. So one, let's start with, what was your volume for last year?
Are they asking this because they know me and they're surprised that I pulled that off, or that a solo agent could pull that off?
I probably think both. So I got hit up from people who know you. And so, yes, I think you're going in the right direction. It's well, if Nolan can do it,
If
I can.
No one can do it, anyone can do it. But yeah, I finished, I think it was 39 closings, 23 a million in volume. I don't know the unit number, to be honest.
Okay.
23 million, because I just go off volume. 23 million is where I closed out on, not including flips or revenue share, any of that.
Okay. So when you say you go off volume, ever since I've known you, that's been what I've always went off units. You went off volume. We obviously know your ways winning. What made you just think that out the gate?
Well, I think it really started coming into fruition when you taught me profit first, because now I've reverse engineered what I need to make per month to hit all of my goals. And volume's the only thing that makes you hit the numbers. You know, I can sell 10 homes a month or 1 home a month. Both of those can bring in the exact same income. So if I set a unit goal and I hit it, but I didn't reach any of my financial goals, what's the point? Or vice versa, you know? So that's where I'm like, okay, cool. I had a good month unit wise, but last month I sold 1 house and my volume was higher. I'd rather more of that. But there's also a fine line. Like, that's why I don't go into ultra luxury, because I know the money's at in the units as well. So it's the fine line there of knowing what you specialize in and then where you can put all your focus on. But I've realized now, I know my average price point is like 7 something, 650 range. And so, but I still go off units now, but if I focus on the volume, I get to my goals faster.
Okay. So 23 million in volume. So when somebody hits me up and they're like, how did he do 23 million in volume as a solo agent? What's your answer to that?
Bro, it's kind of a goofy answer. I mean, because I've been in real estate, so this is my 6th year now, right? And I mean, a lot has changed. I mean, I think it's 3 years. I've known you for about 2 years now. And you met me when I was on a team with my dad. Like, I got great mentorship, sold a bunch of houses. I was in a really good position, but I wanted to build my own thing. So I pretty much, the main thing that I learned a lot from you, and it sounds the cheesy part that sounds the cheesiest, is I learned more emotional intelligence. Like, the more I can learn about personal development and business development, everything changed for me, because I'm still working just as hard. I'm converting as the same amount of leads as I was before. But what changed was my completely different mindset to how I do things and why I do things, and like how it should be structured, how the business is run. And I think when that mindset shifted, things just started rolling in a lot faster. It was weird, because everyone wants to see, like, okay, how many calls are you making? How many open houses are you sitting? I literally just started focusing on developing like my personal stuff, but then getting my business development skills up and running it like a business and not just converting leads. And I was able to do a lot more. I don't know if it was like subconsciously I was having more fun, it was more fulfilling, or what, but I was handling the stress better, because like me and you talk about that a lot, the emotional intelligence side of that. There was no ebbs and flows and stuff like that, but that I can't really like pinpoint exactly what I do differently. But once all of that changed, it's almost like I was a higher version of myself, and it just followed.
So when you say emotional intelligence, like, give people like listening right now, like, what are some examples of that?
I think I've always been the kind of person who's stubborn and like want to figure it out myself. No matter what somebody would say, it's like, no, I need to be like white glove, or I need to be like I need to do it my way, this way. Like I had my true limited beliefs. And when I kind of took a step back and I'm like, or I would follow the lead of somebody who where they're at where I don't want to be. They're making a lot of money selling luxury homes or selling a lot of homes on high splits or whatever. And I would follow their advice. And I'm like, but that's not who I am. So then when I took a step back and I started getting in rooms where people are way further ahead as far as income, how they're living their life, how much they're traveling and all of that, I just became way more intelligent of like, hey, stop trying to figure this out on your own. Do what they're doing, live from their failures and just plug in. And it actually helped my brain too, because I don't have to overthink anything as much. And as soon as I plugged into that, like the more I'm learning, pause, like Dustin Runyon talks about emotional intelligence a lot, like don't overreact. Even the highs, don't get too high, don't get too low. All of that helped. Yeah.
So you mentioned a little bit of like profit first and things like that. So, I mean, to me, like what I've noticed with you, man, is like, you've got some like frameworks now. Like you really have some frameworks of a business and it's not just like go sell house. And what I've noticed looking at you is the more you've got like the frameworks down, the more business that can come in. And so it's just, there's some people who business comes in and it's very sporadic and they're, they don't handle it properly. They don't handle the emotions of it properly. A deal falls through. They like can't do another deal for 4 weeks because they keep talking about that. Yeah. I've noticed like you've just processed a lot of things from how you handle your money now as a business, like you said, profit first, how you handle transactions, how you've leveraged out things. Like it's super like coordinated. So, I mean, where does that like come from? Like, what are you like, explain more of that to people? Cause like I'm getting the calls and I get the text. So now I want to just send them this podcast and be like, here, I don't know, like listen to the story.
I think the hard part is like being vulnerable. Obviously, like we're on a stage right now and like I'm always been like kind of kept to myself. And like I always tell you that you always share my numbers and I'm like, I don't love to, but I know it helps other people. But dude, honestly, like what I've learned from being around you, like how you carry yourself, like your purpose, right? You want Brittany to have a good life, your wife. You want to have peace. You want to have God in your life. You want to have good relationships. You want people to know where your heart is. Like, structuring everything around that has just kind of all come together. I don't really remember what your initial question was, but
I'm just trying to figure out like, what is the emotional intelligence? What's the frameworks? Because as people are listening to this, like they really want to know like what's Nolan up to. I want to go into though, just what you were talking about is you just don't have that in you where you want that shine. Yeah. And so you can mention the numbers if you want, but like you would send me a text probably like 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. And I got that. And it made my heart so happy. You told me how many checks you had on your desk that you had not cashed. Do you want to say the number or no?
Go ahead.
It was like 144,000 of checks. You sent me the picture and you're like, dude, I have these on my desk. I can't even get to the bank. And I was like, dude, like that is so cool. And then I remember like a week later, I'm like, hey, can I post that? And you're like, no, I don't really know if I want to post that. And I was like, dude, like that's cool. Like, I mean, it's cool if you're trying to tell people now, like, this is where I was and this is where I'm going. I don't know if it's cool in a sense if you're just like flexing. I think it's cool when you're like, hey, I was the chunky guy and I have abs now. Would you like to know how to count your macros and what to eat and what to do at the gym? So it's like, if you're just going out there and you're just flexing all day and you're like, hey, here's my win and I'm not telling you anything about this, then I'm like, okay, that's not cool. But like, if you're like, hey, this is what I'm doing and do you need help doing it? Then that's like really cool because now you're helping people. So I know you would never mention those numbers. So I that is where I got the most, on socials when I posted. I had a lot of people hit me up and they're like, that's like, how is that even done? So I'm glad we full circled that because when I said people have been reaching out to me a lot lately, it was from that. And so now they're just seeing it. Now we were in a class 3 weeks ago. I was teaching a class and you were in the crowd. Thanks. It was like 55 of us in there. And you turned around, bro, and you said a statement. Like I was teaching the class, you were sitting front row, you turned around, you just said something so casually. And I saw the look on some people's faces as if like, oh, okay. Yeah. And I stopped and I said, hey, what you guys don't realize is this is the dude that I was just talking about that had the $144,000 check sitting on his desk. So I just want to let you guys know that's Nolan Rucker right there. So if you want to know who's running the game, you probably should like take what he just said seriously and not so casually. I don't think that's why I wanted to do that. They don't know when they see your post, they didn't know who's posting. Like when they see you in the room and you said that, there's no there's almost no credibility to the story. And now like the second I said that, afterwards they're like, he really had that. I'm like, oh, so like it wasn't like he wasn't dope until like you found out that that's that. So I think it goes back to what you said at the beginning. Like, do they say that because they know me? And now they're like wondering like, how can the casual guy with the hat on most of the days do that? But
it's funny though, because I get the same things. I get people that reach out to me all the time, DMing me like, how are you doing what you're doing? And it's so hard. It puts me in such a weird situation because there's no magic pill, but it's also so simple in my head. But I also, there's like three parts of it I also can understand, because that's how I was. It was like the old version of me is people try, and especially in our industry, they're so stubborn. Like they refuse to look at, it's literally right in front of us what's working. Get yourself in front of people who are killing it. Get yourself around them. Like that's proven. It's proven in like history books, I think, if your environment becomes who you are or whatever, like in exactly the opposite way too. If you're around people not doing well, it's going to rub off. Do what they're doing to get the success and follow their systems financially, all of that. Like you just copy them, like stop trying to invent it. So like, that's what I'm doing. I'm even doing it on a smaller scale than I should be. And I'm seeing crazy results. So it's like when people hit me up, I'm like, well, I just realized what position I was in was the opportunity was kind of fading away. I see what opportunity kind of came in front of me by joining with you guys and putting myself in there. Psychologically, it's all handed to me, all the resources. I'm very resourceful. Like I've always seized opportunity and I know how to use my resources. I guess that's my skill. I just plugged in and it's almost, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's like you told me what to do and I did it and it worked. And so I just kept doing that. And now I'm like, agents will come to me, have that conversation, and they'll be like, oh, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, I don't want to be rude, but like, it's so easy and you have more skills than me. Yeah. You know, like, are you just that stubborn? You know, and I almost put it myself aside and I was like, I'm not really even doing this for myself. Like I have people to prove. I got to retire early. I want to get out of working, you know, I want to travel more. I want my wife to never be stressed or have to or work anymore and all of that. So I'm like, you guys are just, I get it, you know?
Dude, I was texting you last night in the text. I wish I could pull it up. I don't have my phone on me. It's in my backpack, but it said something like, we were messaging about, we had like 3 meetings over the last few weeks with some agents that are paying, some are paying $65,000 to their brokerage. Another person that we met up with paying $110,000 to their brokerage. And it's interesting because it's such a limiting belief and they're just talking about this. And I'm like, damn, do you guys not know money? Mm-hmm. And like sometimes it was interesting. Like this one person we were texting about, like they're arguing with me about this. And I text you and I said, dude, I'm just so glad we're dumb enough. I'm so glad we're just dumb enough to just go find people that have already did something and you just model it. I learned quickly. I think it was a Tony Robbins book where he talked about just like modeling people. You find someone who has like what you want and you just model them. And the second that you start asking a lot of questions, like that's not where it works. Like they've already did it and you go to them and you model it. And maybe there's some things that you might tinker with, but like you just do it. Yeah. And like, if you just do it, that happens. So I was like, yeah, dude, I'm glad we're dumb enough that you just get in a room with somebody. You just say, hey, where are you at? And you're like, cool, I like that. What are you doing? Okay, cool. What do I got to do today on Tuesday? Okay, do that. You did that like the best. I can still think of like how many meetings and I don't know if you're going to go deep into stuff. So I want to, because I've been on the other side of watching it and it's super cool. But like just you digging into Profit First, like, do you know how many people that I've said, just read Profit First? But Chris, I just want to get more leads and I just want to close more business. And I'm like, no, read Profit First. Well, Chris, I just want to close more deals. And I'm like, you almost don't have the right framework, because if you don't, it's like the realtor that's been doing real estate for 20 years and they tell me like, man, I feel like I'm on a treadmill. And I'm like, because you haven't read Profit First. Like you get excited to wake up and go sell houses and make a lot of money when you have the framework and you're putting it into stuff and you're building wealth off the money that you're making. But if you're just making money and it's just paying off a credit card that never gets paid off, you look up at the end of the year and it's been 20 years and you're still now $190,000 in debt and you have no cash. It's like you feel like you're on like a treadmill. And so when someone's like, hey, I feel like I'm stuck right now. And I'm like, have you read Profit First? And they're like, no. And I'll follow up with them 4 months later, 7 months later. They call me 2 years later. I'm like, have you read Profit First? No. And I'm like, read the book, because you might get inspired that you could actually go out and it's like you have a business that creates currency. It's like an assembly line that if you do good service, you get excited to wake up and go help people and do what you're good at so that you can bring money, and you've got a framework, and now you're saving, and you're retiring, and you've got wealth and your assets, your net worth. Like you can see even how the like tone in my voice changed when we started talking about that stuff. That's something that when I said, dude, you should read Profit First, you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, you're just like,
you're passionate about it.
You
I guess
messaged me
you
and
know
you're just
something
like,
I don't.
you know, screenshot, like, is this the one? And you know what the best one is? People mess me like, hilarious, dude. They're like, do you think I should get like the realtor edition one? And I'm like,
should I get the paper one or the Kindle version?
I get
like,
that question. I was like,
man.
should I get the realtor edition? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't have the realtor edition. I just had the one before he realized he could make money.
Yeah.
I'm like, just read one. Like read it 5 times. I don't know. You know what hey, I dare you, read both of them. Read the original and the realtor one. I bet you won't be in a worse spot.
I read both of them.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about, dude. So that's you. Like, that's kind of what I'm trying to get into is like, you just, that's what you do. You read
I think
that.
I've always had this in me, but you really brought it out. Is as cheesy as sorry to keep using cheesy, but like ROI. Like we love ROI. Everyone does, right? Anything you invest in, you want to see a return. The cliche of like your self-investment is the highest return is so like just that book. Like that book took me 2 weeks to read, and worst case scenario, I wasted reading and learning an intelligent book. You know, like what's the worst that could come out of it? Best case scenario, I pull some nuggets out of it that maybe you didn't even see, and then you and I can like bounce ideas off each other, and I grow all my accounts. So it's like what I was saying before. Even the return on that was worth it. But then just now I have 16 bank accounts, and it like a check comes in and it just gets funneled to all these accounts. Like it's so fun now where I'm like, how do I get this number up? But now I can reverse engineer it where I'm like, okay, my vacation account is the last part of the funnel, but I need that at $2,000 to be able to go to Maui with you guys and then go on our cruise and then go to Flagstaff or whatever. So I'm like, okay, so I need to reverse engineer this math, which means I need to make 15 million, which needs to mean this many units, and then go all the way back up. And I'm like, I don't know though, that book was $15 and I didn't really have that much time to read it.
Yeah.
You know, like that's how I view like almost everything now. Like how many masterminds or like Zooms have I really missed? You know, like I don't technically need to be at any of those. But I'm like, if I can just get one little nugget, even some of those rooms we go in are hundreds of dollars. I'm like, I like get at least $50,000 worth of information back. I'm like, so that's how I see ROI, and I'm not gonna be cheap on that one.
Yeah, and I don't think like most people would never know you as the guy that like how many Zooms we did on Profit First.
Yeah,
like I remember Saturday we had a placeholder. It was it was Saturday at 8 a.m. It was for like 3 weeks. We had that. I put it as a running meeting. But after about 3 weeks, I was like, okay, the guy's got it down. Like you had it dialed after 3 weeks, and it's cool. That stuff. So that's what I want for people to hear when you say 23 million. That's what got you on the podcast. That's the receipt where someone says, hey, can you come here? The 45-minute to an hour podcast is talking about this stuff. Like those are the behind the scenes meetings that we had. And what's cool about our friendship, bro, is like, on the flip side, that's how you treated me with like fitness.
Yeah.
Like I still remember like when we first met and I was like, oh man, the gym's confusing. And you would just say certain stuff to me. And you're like, what do you mean it's confusing? Like you lift weights and you count your macros. Like that's just like, you just go to the gym and you have a regimen and you count your macros and that's what you do. And just put them in your apps, just like you do your business apps. Like it's just, it's very logical. Get the emotions out of it and just go do it. And so, but I mean, I remember so many times that we've been on like texting back and forth, or you helping me set up my, is it the Strong app?
Yeah.
Like, dude, I remember being on the cruise with you and I told you something and then we met up for dinner that night and you were like, hey, I got your whole regimen in the Strong app and here it is. And I think that's still the same regimen that I use now. But that's the point. That's the cool part of our relationship is like, I don't want anybody to think like it's, hey, like I'm always helping you. Like you help me out all the time on stuff. And it's like, I feel like now, like I'm lifting so much heavier at the gym, and it's because, do you know how many times you told me I was soft? Like I would text you over, and you're like, "Did you eat?" He would say, like, I would text you over, so proud, dude. I'd be like, I'd screenshot it, send it to you, like that's so soft. Like, did you try? And I'm
Actually?
like,
I don't
yeah.
remember
And I'm
that,
like,
sorry.
that's cool. Like, it's the same stuff I'd say to you. You'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, I made this month. And I'm like, that's it?
Yeah.
You know, or you're like, oh, I had a deal fall through and you wanted to text me about it. You used to like want to talk to me about
Yeah.
you used to call me about transactions that were falling through until you realized like, please don't bore me with that. Like
Yeah.
I had 2 already today that fell through. Like I couldn't deal with them. Like I don't want to deal with my own, let alone yours. It's just, that's the fun part of like the relationship is it's the, like, for example, I was telling Britt today, I was telling her about a text that we had last night. She's like, you said that to him? And I'm like, chill. She's like, that's mean.
What'd you say?
It was it was about not showing up to the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I said something else to you I won't say here. And she's like, you said that to him? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, I don't know if you should say that. That's kind of mean. I was like, I will, like, that's our, do you want to read this? Do you want to scroll through the rest of the text? That was the nicest thing we said yesterday.
Nice, yeah.
So it's just like these times when, you know, like, hey, like they need to pick me up. This
Yeah.
isn't the direction I'm going to go. And then there's other times where it's like, no, dude, like you're being soft. So I just wanted to say thank you because like, I feel like I'm on this journey right now. And like, I feel like God, like 100% had a plan for us meeting up
100%.
because you help me just as much as probably I help you. And there's just seasons in life where you need each other. So
I think that goes into too, like going back to the 23 million. Cause like, I still kind of haven't really answered that. Like
No,
how are you getting to the 23 million? Which I'm kind of discovering the answer as we're talking is stuff like this forces you to be that next level of your level or version of yourself. And like, cause I'm on track this year to beat 23 million. My goal's 15 every year. Everyone's like, well, you should raise your goals. I'm like, I can live the perfect life. 15 million hits all of our investment accounts. I can travel with Chris and Brittany as much as I want. And like, and then anything else on top of that is a bonus. We can do whatever we want with it. We're buying homes right now. We're buying other stupid stuff right now, but smart stuff. And where was I going with that? It's just, so now by doing all of this, like what you're talking about, I'm carrying myself in a different way with my clients where they like, it's like they know I'm higher level, which is what everybody wants to work with people they like, trust, and respect. They respect me so much more. I don't know what the main reason is, but now that they know, it's like they know I'm focused on my personal development, making my business better, dialing in my assistants and my systems and all of that they want to work with me. So like my referrals, but even it's funny. Obviously I get a lot more referrals. So when I talk to agents like, oh, you're so lucky you grew up in Scottsdale. I'm like, my conversion on PPC now is so easy because I just call them and I'm like, how can I help? Like, this is what I can do for you. It's not like, hey, will you please work with me? I know you're talking to other agents. I'm like, hey, I'm the best in the Valley and I'm also going to be your best friend. Like, what's going on? How can I help? You know, and you can do that because you have so much more confidence in just everything. And you know that you're like leveling up in life and you're like, that's the old version of myself. I think it's so much more fulfilling too when you're getting the higher versions of yourself, but also being humble enough to know like there's way more levels to this game. I need to get in those rooms and not be like what we said at the beginning. Don't be stubborn. Don't be closed-minded and just keep leveling up, but learn to smell the roses along the way.
yeah, confidence is a currency, man.
Yeah.
Like it really, really is. I've noticed that like even today when I was calling leads, just some of these conversations, like they're so direct because you're just like, so like, hey, I can help you. I actually live in that neighborhood. Like, this is what I did. These are my, like, I just say my receipts. Like, I remember I was talking to one person today and got an appointment, but it went from like, I don't want to deal with you to an appointment to I do want to deal with you. And I just think like you are really, really good at that kind of stuff. Like, you know how to conversate with people. You know how like when you're talking to a lead or somebody, like, you know how to, I don't want to say script a conversation, but you know how to talk to people in a way that gets them to an outcome that you want. And I think that's the best salespeople is when like it looks so natural. Like people just think like, oh, it's so natural. But like, I can see it when you're talking to certain people. I'm like, he's going down I can see it because I respect it. Like he's going down a road with these people that I can totally see. They might not know it, but it's how you talk. It's how you communicate. It's the charisma you have while you do it. And I think it's actually, you're super professional in such a chill way. It's like I posted it about Trevor Halpern.
Yeah.
Like Trevor Halpern was the #1 agent in EXP for solo last year. And I messaged him. I was like, dude, you are the most professional.
We were texting this morning.
You're the most, were you?
I like him a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're the most professional, chill person. I think that's what more and more people are wanting these days.
Yeah.
They're wanting someone who's like, I know straight up how good you are, but you keep it so like casual with the process of like, hey, like it's still just like a home and not in a bad way, but you know what I'm saying?
I
Like-
almost lose trust when it's too professional.
Yes.
It's like, bro, we're friends, you know? It's like, just tell me what's going on here. You're making me uncomfortable. Like, I almost don't even like going to nice restaurants that are nice. It's like, dude, stop scraping the crumbs and like refilling my water every 2 seconds. Like, let's just be chill.
They're just all on me. Britt's like, dude, like, cause I eat like a child. So I always have food all around. We go to those and they want to like clean it with that thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, this is gonna just get worse. just take off the whole thing and wash it
Like, you wanna
afterwards.
sit with us,
you don't gotta
man?
go through and get every crumb that I drop. I got steak A1. I'm the guy at the steakhouse asking for A1. Yeah, like I'm with you there. Like, can we just keep this casual?
Nicole will like hear me answer. Like, I'll have like a $2 million client. I'll answer. I'm like, what up? She's like, you can't say that.
But
I'll
you
call
can,
them
dude.
soft, and I'm
You-
like, that's why they like me.
But
you know?
you read the room.
Yeah.
Like there's so many people. I'm like, just because you're buying a $2 million house doesn't mean you're not wearing I was talking to a lead yesterday and I had to break it down. And she's like, hey, you know what? Like, it's actually for my son. And I could tell like it was really for her son. I'm like, she's like, he's kind of worried about getting qualified. I'm like, well, can you tell him I'm on my back patio right now with sweats and a backwards hat on? And she's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, but also know that I've sold like 1,000+ homes. I own 20 of them. So like I said that casually to you, but letting you know, like I'm super chill. Like I'm on the back patio, backwards hat on. Like this is me. And she's like, okay, like I'm going to have you talk to him. So it's like you got to read the room. You got to have like some receipts. You got to know when to be professional. But yeah, I think it can actually turn people off when they're trying to be so like robotic and systematized.
It's just not authentic, you know? And I think I
That's the right
learned a
word.
lot of that from like my dad is just like, be solutions minded, like actually listen. So many people just are trying to like, they're worried about their pitch. I'll have agents call me like, what, how do you just, I've been on like 1,000 listing appointments. Like, how do we do this? I'm like, every single one's different. I go, what's their situation? I don't know. I'm like, all you care about is your pitch and your commission and all that. I'm like, figure out what their solution is, like what you do. Like you convince people to not sell. I do the same thing. It's like, that's how you gain trust. Like I'm just here to get you to the finish line. If I actually think you'll be better with like a Chris or another agent, I'll tell you that. But you got to earn that trust. And that's like what people, but you actually have to mean it. You can't be cheesy about it and be like, fake it. You have to actually care about where they're trying to, what they're accomplish. And I think once I started doing that, which is part of it's natural, is it just, and working in the restaurant business helped a lot with that. But that's why like my referrals, like it's rare that I'll work with somebody now and not get, they like want to refer me to people because they had such a good experience. My systems can be better with like follow up and stuff like that, but just our relationship that we build, they want me to meet other people, which is cool. I mean, that's the goal in this business.
What were the sources of your business last year? Do you know like somewhat of the percentage?
Yeah, it was like 80% repeat and referral. And sorry, it was like 60% repeat and referral. 20% of that was like farming.
Okay.
So I kind of count that as repeat and referral because I lived in my farm. And then 20% PPC.
Okay. What's your daily like schedule like, and be straight? Like that's probably where I've seen doing this podcast enough and going to enough conferences. I feel like that's where everyone gets squirrely, where I'm like, wait, what up? Like, is that just like what we just said we do on a day, or on like Tuesday at 10, is that really what's going down? Like, do you have like a set schedule, or is this like a free for all? And it's cool if it's either.
It's a free for all, and for the most part, which it shouldn't be. I don't. That's one of my main things I'm working on right now because I pull off a lot no matter what in a day. But the more I can structure it, because the goal is prospecting in the morning, appointments in the afternoon. I'm bad with that because I'll just agree to any appointment, and sometimes I'm in flow to go on appointments in the morning, and I'll just do that and I'll go on a roll. So I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but from a business perspective, it can get like the more I run my numbers, I'm like, well, this is very inefficient. Yeah, it worked out. I got 23 million. Could have gotten 40 million if I did it right? Probably. So I'm aware of that. But like if I'm struggling, I make sure it's mornings prospecting, leave all of the fires and all that stuff either for your admin or afternoons, and then all the appointments in the afternoons, because you almost have to like structure it as two different things. Because like what we talk about all the time, you have to get into flow state, or else because I'm good at getting into flow state, I just do mine sporadically. So like I'll be pacing around my neighborhood for 4 hours, putting deals together. And that's my flow state. But if I sit down and force myself to do deals, you can't do 4 things at once, meaning prospecting, then a fire comes up because of a Benzer is about to fall apart, and then like an agent needs help on something, and then Nick, your mom wants to talk. You can do every agent thinks they can do all 4 things things at once, which you can, they're all being done poorly. So now it's like, hey, I'm going to call my mom every Wednesday or have lunch. That's super effective now. I'm going to call all my deals in the afternoon so we can have really good conversations. I'm in a different flow state. I'm going to prospect in the morning. But so I've been chunking my flow states a lot better. They're just not like, it's not dialed in yet because my appointments are kind of randomized, if that makes sense.
No, I totally get it. I remember one time you asked me why I do this one thing on Monday. And I was like, that Monday is my day where that's where if my bookkeeper wants to talk, it's that day. Lawyer wants to talk, it's that day. I talk to my assistant on my rental properties that day. It's like, it's that day where I'm like, there's like not 1 ounce of creativity. Could you imagine me sitting in a lawyer meeting and then coming onto this podcast? I mean, your brain would just have no creativity. You'd almost, it's so, and why I say this because people will probably understand that one, but yet let's go micro. And just like today, calling my leads for 3 hours on my back patio, like I don't even want to look at my phone because I'm calling.
You texted me back and I'm like, bro, get back to work.
Yeah, like thank you for that.
Yeah.
Because you text me something that I shouldn't even have read. When
I know. I was
the
pissed
question
that you
was
did.
like so elementary. I was like, please, I don't even. But that's the point, dude. It's like I'm calling leads. I'm in this flow state. I got probably 3 listing appointments set while I was in there. And then if I just go and look, but what I'm putting myself in this crowd is we're calling leads and it's just like push the button, it's dialing. Yeah. And then I click on Instagram, someone messages you and you're reading that while it's dialing, then they answer.
Yeah, then you're
and then it's just, and hear me out. It's like, it's not going to kill you, but it is detrimental on your brain. Like going in and out of things. Like if you were a computer, it's like you're going into that conversation. And then also you're just the bandwidth. Like can you imagine like if you're calling leads and now you're checking emails while you're calling leads and then you're getting the deals falling through. Like the second you see the deals falling through, now you're uninspired to call the leads. It's mentally bad for you.
It's unnecessary. It's ineffective. It's inefficient. Why would you ever do something that's inefficient? It's proven to be inefficient, but we justify that. Oh, well, I can still sell like 2 to 3 homes a month doing it that way. Yeah. It's like, but you're being so inefficient for the easiest change, which I'm still guilty of it. And I know I chased. I'm super guilty. It's like we listen to that one guy all the time, Wes, and he talks about chasing pleasure over purpose. And he's like, right now, people are like 90% pleasure, 10% purpose. He's like, if you can flip that. And I was like, I dug into that deeper and I was like, everything you do in the day, is it pleasure? Is it purpose? And I like realized I was justifying it. I would go on Instagram, but I'm like, oh, but if this is business related or I'm DMing somebody I can help or a client, or like I'm going to go run this errand because it's my business, but it's all pleasure because it felt better. I'm like, what's towards your purpose? And actually the funny part is when you do that, the pleasure is even bigger. Because it feels better because you're actually getting towards your goals.
Well, I read a text whenever I was, got done calling leads and you would send me a text and I liked how the response was because you're learning. And I do it all the time. As you said, like, how should I respond to this person? Like it's someone that you know and you want to help them, but yet you want to help, but there's places to help. And so it's like our Tuesday Zoom that we do. We talk about.
You know what's funny about you making that comment?
What?
There's probably 10 people listening right now. Like, that's got to be. Because I get a lot of those texts.
Oh, like, were you talking about me? Like, no, but
it had to have been me who asked the dumb question.
That's funny. Yeah, but that's funny. But what's so interesting is like on that Tuesday Zoom, like we've talked about PPC leads for like 4 weeks on there. Yeah. But then you get someone who's like, hey, like can we get on the phone and talk about these PPC leads? I'm like, wait, we've been talking about like every hour on Tuesday, we have like 60 people on there and we talk about like internet leads. Oh, I know, but like, can I just have 10 minutes right now? And I'm like, well, do you want to show up Tuesday at 8? Oh, no, I'm busy.
I'm too busy.
I'm busy. I'm like, wait, so
the most successful agents in our entire crew are on that Zoom every Tuesday, but you're too busy.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, so the person on there that's doing 25 million, the 23 million, some of the highest net worth people, some of the highest net worth people, like they're on there, but yet you had an inspection during that time. But the point is how like, I loved your answer was like, hey, that's where we're at. So show up.
It was helpful. It wasn't rude.
No.
I mean, that's why I asked you, because that's where I struggle is like, you're very direct, but you've earned that because you obviously like, and I'm earning it. But everyone knows where your heart is, Right. So you're beyond direct with me, which I would, that's the only way I want it. Like when you're soft towards me, I'm like, dude, can you give me a real answer? But like the more direct I am now, like it's actually being helpful. If you're an asshole about it and you're like, hey man, like we already went over this, figure it out. Like I get that, but it's like, hey, here's the answer. Like I don't see you on there. And like, that's just the reason we do these. If not, I guess like we can figure out a different solution, but this is free, you know?
Well, it's because, I mean, love ain't lies.
Yeah.
Like, I know when I text you and I say something and you message me direct, like if I'm like, hey, I'm not like, well, we talking about fitness and you'll be like, hey, like send me your last 3 days of working out. And I send it to you and you're like, well, yeah, like you're not going hard enough. Like someone could cry over that, but I'm like, if I really want that result and you really know how to help somebody get that result, you beating around the bush. I always make a joke. I'm like, wouldn't that suck if like the doctor didn't want to tell you that you were sick because it was your birthday? They're just like, oh man, like it's their birthday. I know they're sick, but like they're coming in 2 months.
And you have the solution to make them
you
feel
have this
better.
total solution to make it better.
Yeah.
And so like, it's like, I look at things like that. Like, could you imagine your lawyer or your CPA being like, oh my gosh, like they're going to be in some tax troubles if I don't tell them this, but like, I don't know, it's their anniversary.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to hold off till next week. Like they'll probably feel better then. I just kind of think of stuff like that. Like the more direct we can get people to the source to actually improve without a lot of emotions, the better they'll feel. And you'll lose certain people, they'll unsubscribe, but the people that unsubscribe aren't going in your direction. Therefore, like you're totally stoked if they unsubscribe because you just realize like you're going to a next level and you've got a crew around you who's going. And it's awesome because you always have people around you that like, they're seeking that. Like I remember like when we started hanging out, I was like, dude, these are the most elementary business questions I've heard in a long time. Mm-hmm. But yet every single time we'd meet, you would say, hey, well, how do I do this? And I'm like, okay, it's kind of, you know, I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, okay. But the first time I told you what to do next, it was, oh, I'm gonna do this. Okay, cool. And then you'd hit me up in 5 days, be like, hey, like I need help on this. I'm like, hey, did you do this? And you're like, yeah, I already got that done. And I'm like, okay. And then you needed help on something else. And I was like, okay. And then you got that done. It was like you were getting, like when you would call and say, hey, I need help on this, you would get it done in like a day. Mm-hmm. And then someone else, it's like in 17 days, they call you and they're like, hey, I need help on the same thing. And I'm like, I know it's the same answer. I know, but I don't know. I don't really want to do that. Can we give me I'm like, no, that's the answer. And then 2 weeks later, it's the same thing. And then it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So like you just literally like, I don't, no matter what room you're in, bro, like any room I've seen you in, like you hear something, it's like the next day you're doing it. I'm like, that's fast. Like you go faster at stuff than I do. I actually need to think about it a little bit longer. But like I said, when we started, like, I'm glad we are dumb enough that we understand that you just go to somebody who has it, give them whatever they're charging to get it, and don't force sell by owner this. Like, it's funny how like people, we've went through this a few times over the last few years. Like, well, you'll do something. I'm like, dude, just pay somebody like their wage and get it done. Oh, but like, I think this guy can do it for like $4 an hour. And I'm like, just give Steve $2,000 and get it done in 3 days. Yeah. And like, we go through those conversations, but it's like, that's something that you did really well, man. But as
I think the journey of you like coming to me for fitness actually helped a lot.
It did.
Because not that I'm like the expert in fitness, but like I've been doing it for a while. And like every time because at the beginning too, you were kind of stubborn too. And you'd be like, well,
totally stubborn.
I'm reading this book right now, or I saw this YouTube video and it said to do it this way. I'm like, dude, like, do you want my help or not? Like, you're going to figure it out on your own, or do you want my help? Like, I literally just gave you the answers and you're trying to justify it. So like that helped me be like, oh, that's what I'm doing to him in business. So like, that's where I'm just like, I don't even really need to see. I'm like, does it work or not? Yeah, here's the proof. Okay, I'm going to try it. That's the thing too. Like, I know we're talking to an audience too, is like, it's not like when you get advice from somebody that you have to change your whole life and do that forever. Like, just go all in for 3 to 6 months and then make a decision from there if it was right or wrong. If you're that insecure or you're that indecisive about it, just give it a try, because you might learn a different way. You might find out you hate it. You might do whatever. And that's what I'm all about, is like, I used to be super indecisive, like, hey, is this the right decision? Should I be doing this? Now I'm like, okay, you showed me how it works. You showed me some testimonials. Like, here's 4 agents that are doing it that I know if they can do it, I can do it. I'm going to go, it's all up to me now. You know, I have to put in the reps and I'll go all in. And there's been stuff where I'm like, I went all in. I'm like, I don't love doing this. Yeah, it makes me some money, but I don't love it. On to the next. You know, it's way out. The old me, that would have been that same 4 months would have been me trying to do research, do it my own way, justifying it, complaining. I'm like, that version of me is gone. I'm so happy.
Dude, no one will ever know how much work you put in.
Yeah.
Like I know because we text each other every day, but we actually have a running joke where like I remember it was last Saturday we were on the phone just early in the morning talking about just like improving. And you had said a comment like, how many people do you think at like 8 a.m. right now or like had talked for an hour and a half about improving? I'm like, there's probably enough. But I always like joke with you. I'm like, hey, let's just focus on us and like let's flow on this. And I just think it's something that is important to note. So when someone says, why does Nolan, like how did he do 23 million? I'm like, you are always improving. And when someone hears that, it's like you're not perfect in any way. And you have a lot of things you're working on, just like I am. But yet, like, you wake up with this sense of like inwardness of like, what do I need to do better today? And it's almost like a healthy dose of anxiety. That's how I look at it. Like, I am always at a spot where I don't feel super comfortable with where I'm at. And so I'm just like, I need to get to the next level or I need to improve this. And Brittany sometimes, like, I can just tell, like, it's almost sometimes like a little bit of like, I don't know, like, couldn't you just chill out a bit? Like just on myself, like on what it's got to be like, it's got to go to 75 hard. Right after 75 hard, 2 weeks later, it's like, 30 days of this, and then it's 2 weeks of this, and it's just, it never stops, but I love it. And so I think it's just some people's personality. It's definitely mine. It's definitely yours. I know that's where our friendship began, and it's cool to see it.
Let me ask you a question. So what do you think? Because we're at the point now where agents come to us all the time, probably 10 times more to me, but I'm getting to the point. Like, I mean, I have 48 agents in my organization. Like a lot of agents look up to me now, that's the goal. Like I'm grateful for that. I want to build a cool group that we have. It's already building daily. But like the thing I'm struggling with now, I'm asking you for advice is you'll explain all this to them. They want better. They have the capabilities. It makes sense, but they just won't do it. Like it's almost like obvious. It's like if they were in corporate and their boss came up to them and said, hey, you're doing great. Here's a huge promotion. They're like, I don't know if I want the promotion. It's like, and that's where I'm like, so the battle for me is like, I get frustrated and I'm like, do we even want that around us? Cause is that going to cause a bad environment or just like, does those people, what's missing there?
I don't know what's missing, but I do know that there's just, when I had a conversation with an agent yesterday on a Zoom, I actually had 3 different agents, other companies talking to me. And I almost always will start the conversation of where are you at? Where do you want to go? What do you know you need to do that you're not doing? And they'll usually say enough things they'll usually say enough things that they know they're not doing that they need to be doing. I'm like, just start there. Like you actually did not need me to solve that. Like if you just name those 3 things and that's what would change your life and you can't do that, that would be like me going to a personal trainer and her saying, where do you want to be? Where are you at?
Yeah.
And she's like, what is the 3 things that you need to be doing? I'm like, working out harder, probably eating healthier.
Quit drinking.
And I need to quit drinking. Yeah. And she'd be like, go do that.
Yeah.
And if I was like, no, I don't want to do that, then she would be probably like, I can't work with this. Meaning, is there still room for a personal trainer? Yeah, but the personal trainer is like, hey, come to me the next day and every day and do all those 3 things, but don't come to me every 3 days. Don't come to me every day and talk about why you don't want to do those 3 things. That's therapy.
Yeah.
Go to a therapist and talk about all the things you want in life that you're not willing to do. That's a therapist. Me going to my personal trainer every day, which I could pay him, and be like, we're there again at 6 in the morning. And she's like, hey, did you eat good last night? Nope. Did you walk yesterday like we talked about? Let's go again. I could still give her my money and I could keep coming.
I'm actually getting worse.
Yeah, like I'm getting worse. Like I'm hanging out. Now I'm not, but dude, you just said it. Now the blame game.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm paying a personal trainer.
You told me.
Paying a personal trainer and it's not working.
Yeah.
So I just start there anymore. I'm like, hey, where are you at? Where do you want to go? What do you know in your heart that you need to be doing that you're not doing? So that's just honest. They say it at that point. I'm like, are you willing to do that? I don't know. And I'm like, come back to me when you're willing to do that. Because I would just be quote unquote taking your money, which I take no money. I would just be taking your money and you'd get no results. And I don't like to have customers that are still fat after the 4-week program or the 4-month program.
Yeah.
Like, that's just so crazy.
We don't need that.
No,
around
it would just be
us.
like, I mean, it's not give, it wouldn't give me any energy. It doesn't give them any energy. Like
Toxic.
there's no, like the expectations won't be set. Like it's better for me to be honest, be like, hey, do you know what? Like, go work on that, figure those things out, like mentally, talk to your spouse, get some goals. And then I think you're going to be able to participate in whatever it is. But
is it like an emotional intelligence thing? Is it like there's not enough clarity there? Is it just like stubbornness? I don't know what it is.
I think I always want to go back to looking inwardly. Is like, I have things right now in my life that there's certain areas where you're super confident and this is how you can talk. But I bet you, dude, I can get on another podcast and they could just ask me certain questions and I'd be like, whoa, like I need to work on this.
Yeah.
So there's no like someone's better, like maybe someone's better in a certain arena, but I still think there's something daily that you are working on and I'm working on. 100%. We know some of them that we wouldn't talk about, but there's still things in life where someone like, I'm still working on those emotions and I haven't gotten there. So there's no judgment in any of these statements, but I don't think they just don't like, it's like, why for several years have I wanted to look better and be in better shape, but didn't? Like, you could be like, Chris, are you not emotionally intelligent? And I'm like, yeah, in that arena, I guess. Cause like chips and salsa are really cool.
Yeah.
And like Coca-Cola, I like it. And yeah, like lifting weights, like it's not always fun.
Just didn't want it bad enough.
Yeah. So like, that's where, and like, so on those Zooms I do, it's where are you at? Where are you going? What are the 3 things you know you need to be doing that you're not doing? And then that's where I go next is, what are we doing this for?
Yeah.
And I want to know, like, when they say like, oh, I just want to sell 23 million in volume, like, nope, like that won't get you through a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Oh, I just want to make good money. I'm like, I don't know. Like, let's talk about that more. I'm finding that the people that are the most motivated to close homes they've got such a passion for something else that they're trying to do with the money and the good they're trying to do, whether they're trying to tithe their church, whether they're trying to pay off their house, whether they've got kids and they're trying to get them to college, whether they're trying to, put several thousand a month away. Like, it's always driven by something that they're going to be doing with this money that's going to either help other people in this life do good, help their family do good, or they feel like an older version of the self is going to applaud them for taking care of them.
Yeah, I like that
and if they don't have those, if they don't want to give anything away to people, because like there's not a lot of help that can be done without like outside of time. Yeah. There's not a lot of like you see a lot of charities that are like, hey, like we're just like we're collecting smiles today.
Yeah.
Like we're collecting, like, we wish you well, like they're collecting money to go do good with it. So like, I would like challenge people is go find a cause that you love, go find a family, yours maybe, that you love, go find like a 70-year-old version of yourself, which you will be, that you hope that you can give them knuckles and be like, thanks for taking care of me, bro. Like, remember that Tuesday when you wanted to be a bitch? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah. And like, thank you for actually like putting in the work. Like you went through. So it's just a daily grind of knowing that people need help. Yeah. That takes money. Yeah. I have a wife that likes to travel and I want to take care of. I feel it's my obligation and duty as a man. And I want to wake up. I'm 41 now. I want to wake up at 50 and just say, props, homie. Like, I'm proud you took care of me. And I don't think that like your bitch voice is going to win that. Now, can that be 10% of your life? Possibly. Yeah. But I think some people, it's 97% of their life. And I'm like, I don't think that's a cool story. I don't think you inspire anybody by that story. I don't think anybody's motivated by that story. I think you're going to be bummed out when you're 92. And that is the story. And you don't have a lot of energy at that age. So all you're probably going to do is think a lot. And that's the version you got to think on. And like I said, I have a lot to reconcile in my past. And so I speak with this energy that there's so much to reconcile. And today you've asked me the question like last week on like, you asked me a net worth question. And that question, bro, like, even though it's good, I still had to reconcile so many thoughts by the question that you asked me of me being 41. I was like, he's like 30 or 29. There's thoughts that I reconciled and I'm like, wait, if you didn't like any of those answers you just had to say, remember you're 41 and you didn't like some of the answers you had to answer. So now if you're 60, make sure from 41 to 60, you have less that you have to reconcile. And I look at, there's so much we're reconciling. So just think there's going to be another version of you that has to do that again. Yeah. And you're almost always going to have some friction in that reconciliation. So just have less. Yeah. That was the longest answer, bro.
No, that was fire. Yeah.
Of like, good. I don't even know what you asked me.
So that's the thing that we need to talk a lot about, like doing all this content and stuff. And I'm like, because this is the side of you that I always see. Like one day we should do one of these podcasts where, have you seen those like 4-hour ones? Yeah. We should do like a 4-hour one because like how many conversations we have. But like that's the side of you where I just plugged into that. And like that, I just went full speed ahead. And I'm like, just be brutally honest with me. Like, what regrets do you have? Like, what would you have done differently? Like, how do you view things?
Yeah.
And like how you think of things, and like even all the people we surround ourselves with, like how they view things has completely changed everything, the perception of things. Because people, I'll see a lot of it, and it's cool too, because I'll see it, people who are the opposite. They'll see everything in a negative way, or everything, they'll look at the bad part of things, and I'm like, that just explains why your whole life is a dark cloud. You've turned it to like, even when I'm having bad days, I'm like, this is kind of cool. Like, this is part of the process.
Yeah.
This is good. And then that transforms into like turning that day into a solid one and just gaining that momentum.
Yeah, dude, we have some of the most, I think they probably got the most rawest version right there of our conversations. And sometimes you're on the other end of that 7-minute rant. I'm on it a lot as well.
Yeah.
But like if Brittany looks out back and I'm pacing by my pool, she's like, he's got to be talking to Nolan. And I'm thankful as we're wrapping this up that like, dude, you've been the biggest blessing in my life for the last 2 years. Like there's literally a spot where real estate got a tad boring to me. Selling houses got a little bit numb.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, you were you just turned into my best friend, and helping you was like, I never had a little brother. So now I've almost respect my older brother, where like I could see some things that he did throughout my life where I'm like, I don't get it because I'm the young one.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh man, like that's super dope. Like it's like a proud feeling of like, hey, like if I could just help you out with this, like I don't want to see you go through that. I think a lot of people like, I mean, I don't have kids and won't ever have kids, but like I think that's probably a feeling that they get with that. But like I look at you literally like a little brother, where I'm like, damn, like I'm so proud of him on what he's doing in his life. The fact on what you're doing with like your net worth, your profit first, the amount of vacations you take, the leverage you have in your life. We didn't even get into, and we'll have to do another one, just like your VA now that you have, your transaction coordinator you have. That's all variable stuff usually, not maybe the VA, but what you're doing volume wise with so little overhead is just something that, I mean, people can go out there and be like, I did $50 million. I'm like, just tell me how many people you got on your team. And they're like, I got 6. And I'm like, okay, that's a cute story, but like, that's not a lot for 6 people that you got to feed, you know? So like you being able to say you have 23 million in volume with almost no overhead as far as like people helping you or team members, dope, dude. Like I'm super proud of you. What are you, as we wrap up what are you looking forward to the most this year? Like we're already in almost March tomorrow.
I think it kind of relates to what you just said, and because I feel the same way to you, like, but it's also gotten to the point, and this is why like I'm asking the questions I am as far as like agents who are coming to me, is because like you're the big brother I never had, but with how passionate you are about, you can tell like I'm all about like people being authentic. You can tell that you actually want your crew to succeed, and like it's very rare that you come across someone like that. And so like I'm fully aware of that. We're to the point where like I cannot let you down, you know? Yeah. I'm like, that's super insulting. If you're gonna give me your all to like, because you've said it multiple times, you're like, you're gonna be farther than I am when you're 41. And I'm like, totally. It's almost like guaranteed, like you're gonna do everything it takes to get there. And I'm like, why would I ever let that up? So like when new people are coming in, I'm like, we got gold here. And I'm like, if you don't see the value and you're not willing to take advantage of the value, which I'll help, and like you got as much help as you can get in this opportunity, you almost don't even deserve it. You know, I'm trying to be humble there, but like that's what I'm most excited for, is like you're growing at a crazy speed right now, probably because you're on 75 hard too. But like I'm just gonna be slowly following you behind, and I just know it gives me so much security that I'm like, hey, this guy's got my back. Like it's almost bulletproof, you know?
Man, ask Britt, you know it, dude. When Brittany sees me at my happiness in the day, it is not closed transactions. Like she'll be like, hey, we closed 3 today. I'm like, cool. It's all a spreadsheet to me at that point, right? Like, don't get me wrong. Like love my clients, but like, that's all just, I'm numb to that. I've did it for 19 years. Mm-hmm. When I hear like you had $144,000 of checks, commission checks on your desk, I was fired up. Britt would she knew I was fired up when I got that text. When I hear, you know, you buying like your 4th house right now, like that just straight up fires me up. Like anybody in our crew, when they tell me like, hey, I've got 67,000 pending right now, or 120,000, or some of them are like, I'm having $100,000 back-to-back months. And I'm like, I am on another level. Cause I'm like, that's just like, it's so it's so exciting to see because like you said, like I'm just super passionate about it. And
Mhm.
I don't know where it came from. I just always say, man, it's God's plan. Like
Yeah.
I never at 22 when I got into real estate thought I'd had so many client testimonials. And then if you would ask me 3 years ago, I would have never have thought I'd have so many realtor testimonials. Like it's just a space you get into and you just keep going. And there's some days that are harder than others, but I like get off Zooms anymore and I'll walk in and tell Britt, like, I made nothing on that Zoom and I am at the highest level of happy.
Yeah.
And you've asked me this a few times. You say like, how do you feel? And I'm like, dude, this one, like this didn't even make me money.
Yeah.
I am so jazzed right now. And I'm trying, cause you ask me all the time, bro, how do you feel today? How do you feel today? And when at the end of the night, when you say, how do you feel? I've learned that like you ask it all the time. And I say, how do you feel about today? And there's days where I'm like, I wasn't really happy, like with the whole day. And then I look at what I did now. When you ask me that, I'm like, I feel really good. And I look, and usually those days it's me giving to others.
Yeah.
And you realize like that's flow state. And then when people want to talk about money, like, oh, Chris just goes out and does this for money. I'm like, chill on that. Like money just follows sometimes people that are actually going out there and in flow state all day. And if I get money off that, cool, but like I'm just vibing off of just good energy at the moment. So I thank you, dude, for like helping me out with all this. You and a few others were like the first version. I feel like you were like my first, like you're my first
test
like,
run
clients
Yeah.
that were like, hey, like they're kind of a little chunky and like I think I can get them abs. You're the first person now, like you've got the receipts. Now I'm like in business now. I wish we could have, I was talking about this yesterday. On Instagram, you can have the before and after, the chunky person and the person in abs. And you're like, hey, I was a part of that. Like I helped them do that. Like I told them what macros to do and what I wish there was that in business. And there's not necessarily from just a visual of like before and after. So this is the after. This is the after. Like they didn't get to hear me at Thirsty Lion with you 2.5 years ago when I met you. That was the before picture where you were chunky in business. This is the receipt now of the after. And I've seen you go from 150 pounds overweight in business to now like a 9% body fat. And I can't wait to have you on in like 7 more months when you're like actually like a 5% body fat. And they're like, okay, now he's starting to look a little weird. And I'm like, dude, you just got to respect the discipline, right? So it might look a little weird, but like that took a lot of freaking work. So I appreciate, man, your friendship.
Cool. Peace out.